Good afternoon. The purpose of dialogue. I use the word dialogue because it's apparently not just a conversation which I'm having with myself. This is a conversation which we are having together. That's you and me. It's a conversation whereby I might be asking some questions. These questions might seem deep-rooted, might not seem relevant. There might be incoherence in the thread between the questions I keep asking. But the purpose is for both of us, that's you and me, to understand certain basic elements which is going to take us forward in asking further questions. Because all of us, we are so conditioned as human beings. We're conditioned with our past, we're conditioned with our knowledge, our upbringing, our religious preferences, our education, our friends. So the consolidated I, that's me, that's Mr. Mukerji, is a complete baggage of all these accumulations which I've had in my 57 years of existence. And when I say this, I say it with conviction that I am a product of my past. And it might seem quite diabolical that I am trying to talk about something which might be in the realm of the unknown. Or I would use a fence to say, I am the known, I am the baggage of the known. And here I am trying to shed all of this baggage and fiercely look ahead at the unknown. Now, is that possible? Is it possible for a mind, a conditioned mind, brought about by years of hurt, of travels, of pain, of suffering, a mind which is brutal in its consolidation of the I just, all these years it's just been me, whether it's my learning, my education, my professional life, my work life, my married life, my fatherhood, and in every pattern I've been consolidating myself as an entity which is fierce with the thinking process which I have within me. And is it possible for this kind of a mind which is caught up with the past, is it possible for this mind to break free from this? Not in ideation, not in concept, not in theory, but in actuality, in the real sense. Is it possible for a man to break free from the known into the realm of the unknown? So I shall begin this discussion. I'll use the word dialogue again. This is not a monologue, because you're welcome to ask questions within yourself. You can jot them down, you can ask me later, and that's how this interaction will begin. I would love it to have been a 1:1. Perhaps I might attempt that on Facebook soon. I'm not too sure whether I'll be able to handle that from the technology end, but I shall make every effort for you to get back to me. You will have my Twitter handle, my Facebook page handle, along with my email and my contact details mentioned below. You're welcome to get back to me at any point of time. You're welcome to add to my thought process, because I'm limited by seeing it again with what I think is appropriate at this point of time. It doesn't mean that my direction is the only direction. And after all, truth is like the untraveled path. So let us all travel together, that's you and me, in this soulful, meandering journey where we'll ask some questions which are so relevant for our existence, especially in this day and time when we have so much uncertainty and fear in our lives. And fear again is something which is an accumulation. We have fear of the past. We have the fear of the past in the sense the consolidations which I've had in the past, or the pattern of events or thought processes which I've had in the past gives rise to fear, which might be completely unfounded. It might not have any relevance to the actual facts of the circumstance or the event. So fear can be based on the past. There is also fear of the future, of the unknown. So that's the fear of uncertainty. And we have both these kinds of fears which we need to address. And why are we fearful? Why are we not immersed in fear to tell ourselves that fear is just a reflection of some image which we have put into our mind, mapping on with a preconceived notion which I have within me, and that's what giving rise to fear. Perhaps fear is something completely altogether different from how we have thought fear in ourselves, within ourselves. And I will come to that as a separate segment. We shall discuss fear in all manifestations and try to address fear, which might be relevant in this day and age of ours. And apart from the topic of fear, the consolidated I, the self, and how we can empty the content of the self so that we see things anew, afresh, completely differently, not as an entity which is purely observing. We create this entity all the time as if I am the observer. I'm observing. There's so much I have accumulated within me from the wisdom of all that I read, whether it's from a guru or from the scriptures or wherever. And I make up my mind and I observe an activity and I automatically become the observer. So I see what is happening around me, whether it's quietly or robustly, but I am an observer and I'm observing life. And I think I've been so smart that I don't get caught up in the controversies of living. I just stay away and I observe. And here I tell myself, see, I am wise. I am not in the process. I'm just an observer. But does that solve the issue? If the observer is divorced from the observation, is the observation complete? Now think deeply on this, my friends. So you have an observation and you have an observer, and in between there is the observee. So the observation and the observer and the observee are three elements, constituent elements, which give that whole formation of an observation, which I feel very often is the cause for so many conflicts which is happening. Because everyone is observing quietly or indifferently or actively or robustly, because they are not observing it in the completeness in which it deserves. And this is compounded with the fact that as human beings, everything is based on images which I create in my mind. Everything is an image. My relationship to you is based on you, how I perceive you as an image within me. Do I know you at all? Perhaps that's something which I need to ask myself. Do we know each other? Or is just an image of the person I get to know? Certain attributes of the image which my mind will readily accept and collate to and identify with. Perhaps those are the images which I retain. That might not be the image of the person who he or she is. So we are caught up with this past. All this thematically goes back to that single element of our past. And we are caught up in the repetitiveness of the past, which gives my thinking pattern completely based on how I want to see things, how I perceive and how I am seen. And I justify that, saying that's me, that's how it's supposed to be. And that's no justification at all. So the self, the me, the I, the consolidated past is more often than ever the cause for all the conflicts which is happening, whether it's to handle fear, whether it's to handle conflict, whether it's to handle pain. We run away from pain. All of us run away from pain. Or pain is something like a noise when you get on a busy road. I'm going past Park Circus Market and it's so horribly noisy outside, and I'm in a state of immediate tranquil, and I want to cut off that noise. I roll up my window and I think I am away from the noise. You aren't. The noise remains. There is no change in the status of the noise. And the only way you can stop that noise is reaching out to that noise, so that that noise stays within you. And similar to pain, when you get completely immersed in pain, in whichever format of suffering it is, for a husband loses wife, a wife loses husband, you lose your job, you lose your elders, and you suffer in pain. There's sufferance which is happening, and that is a fact. That's an actuality. You cannot run away from the fact that there is pain and there is suffering. But you can't push pain away. You cannot run away from suffering. So it shouldn't be as a remedy. I look at alternatives to get away from pain. And I give a solution which might seem so theoretical and ridiculous. I would say you be immersed in pain completely. It's not because you can't run away from pain through alcohol or through drugs or through friends or through temporary reprieves. But you be completely immersed in pain. Let pain engulf you. It's only then the enormity of pain and the suffering which comes with it that ceases. And it doesn't cease in words. It's not a vocabulary. It's not ceasing only through words. I know words have a limitation. So do thoughts. So everything which I am saying is based on thought, which is a limitation by itself. And to add to that is the limitation of words. So everything I'm communicating is limited by either thought or words, and I'm thinking in those patterns as in a symbol. So if I can communicate without words, how incredible that would have been. If I could communicate to you and we had no medium of a language in between. I just communicate with you in the freshness of the moment without having to decide on a topic of conversation. How extraordinary would that have been? Think about that for this discussion. I shall come back in the next episode with a topic of discussion. We shall start with talking about fear, and after we complete fear, we shall talk about pain and suffering. We'll have them as isolated topics so that we can discuss this in between. Thank you.